Okay. Hello, everyone. Nice to be back again after a short period of summertime. I hope everyone is in good health and doing great at this time of the year. We were away for a while, but being busy with some new projects and preparing some new partnership opportunities for the ecosystem for the new season. Today, I have a great guest. Hello, everyone. Nice to be back again after a short period of summertime. I hope everyone is in good health. Sorry for the inconvenience. But today I have a great guest that I would like to introduce you as our new strategic partner for FinTech Istanbul. It's Michael Salmony. Hi, Michael, and welcome to FinTech Istanbul.
Hi, Selim. It's a true privilege to be with you here.
Thank you. I'm sure our community would like to know more about you, but I think it's best if you can introduce yourself.
Okay, very happy to do that. My name's Michael Salmony. I'm British, as you can tell by the funny way I talk. I studied computer science at Cambridge and have been involved in technology all my life. Initially at IBM, where we helped transform various other industries, music industry and publishing industry, airline and ticketing. But now I'm in the most exciting part of digital transformation, and that's payments and banking.
Okay, great to know that. For us, this partnership, this strategic partnership is very important. So the purpose for us of this partnership is to enhance the knowledge base for us and also understand the global examples and as a result, reflect those to the ecosystem, for the Turkish ecosystem. So with some new services, we will try to touch the strategic and operational level executives, especially on open banking. So we know that you're an expert on open banking, Michael. We have already planned some webinars, trainings, and masterclasses, consulting services, and also some turnkey projects for the ecosystem. So let's talk a little bit about them. Let me ask you what you think about the Turkish ecosystem, the size, the numbers, the quality of the services.
Well, maybe I can back up a little bit just about how open banking is evolving across the whole world right now, because I've been involved, I think it's fair to say from the beginning, I helped the regulators in Europe create open banking, which was the first geography where open banking was mandated to banks. So worked very closely with the ECB, the central bank, with the Commission, spoke in the European Parliament about that, and have since been working with a number of banks and regulators across Europe. But now, of course, this is beginning to happen all across the world. I've done some work in Japan, which has been leading on this, in Central Asia, in South America, in Africa. So this is a really exciting development that this open banking topic is now conquering the world because it is so powerful and so transformative. So really looking forward to working with you on open banking in Turkey. Regarding the expectations, what I've seen so far from working with some Turkish banks is people are very open, very innovative, very smart here, if I can say that. That's not always the case in all geographies. Some banks tend to be more defensive and see this as a compliance topic. I'm hearing a lot of very, very smart thinking on this. It's also largely based on PSD2, so that's something which we're very comfortable with. We have a lot of experience over many years now on what works and what doesn't, what to watch out for. And you also have the second mover advantage, right? In Europe, we got a lot of bleeding noses because we tried some things which turned out not to work as well as we thought. So now we really know what works, what doesn't, what to watch out for. So you can hit the ground running and really get moving straight away. So really look forward to sharing that with you.
Sorry. So we have learned a lot from the European experiences, you're right. But do you think that open banking will evolve in a short period of time in Turkey?
I think the prerequisites seem to be there from what I'm hearing. The laws are beginning to emerge, as I understand, and they'll be published by the end of the year. As I said, my impression is that a number of banks in Turkey have already invested heavily in new IT. They're not held back by old legacy systems as much as in some other geography. There's a very open mindset to see what can we make of this, not just how can we avoid it, but actually and there are considerable business opportunities. Maybe we can talk a little bit about that for banking and for other industries. Okay. So I'm very optimistic, and you obviously have organized things very well, having FinTech Istanbul, having the BKM where the connection is going to be made. So these are all lovely things that look like great prerequisites for a success.
Yes, besides banking, there are some new sectors, not new sectors, but they are coming to the FinTech area, which we used to think that it was belonging to the banks. Let's call the retailers, or telcos. So what do you think about them?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting journey. Initially, it was sort of started all in payments. How do you do a different payment button? And then it became banking. How do you, for example, do better lending? Because you have better information. You can actually monitor the loan while it's happening to see any signs of distress early. It went into insurtech, how you can do better insurance. And now it's even beginning to leave financial services. As you mentioned, retail. They work very cleverly with data. In the UK, Tesco, the largest supermarket chain, has an incredibly successful loyalty program built by dunnhumby. They know more about their customer than Tesco themselves do, as the Tesco chairman said. And now they can access not only their own data, see what people are shopping at Tesco, they can see what they're shopping overall and what their other interests and preferences are, and therefore make much more targeted offers. And if I can just conclude with one really wacky example, which we came across recently, to show it goes way beyond financial services. We had a hackathon, and the winner was a dating site. Oh. Because dating sites typically work by what people enter. And of course, people lie and say they earn much more money than they do and have all these fantastic interests and travel on a yacht and go on holidays in these fantastic places. But by sharing more of your real preferences, you can actually match people better. And there is a very large European dating site which is now using this for people who are prepared to open a little bit more of themselves in exchange for getting more truthful answers from their potential partners, and are being matched in a much better way. So I just bring this as an example of how open banking has gone way beyond payments and is now entering every single industry. Yes,
sure. Yes, I'm sure. I think that we will see them shortly in Turkey as well. So, as a very fresh news, I'm not sure if you have heard of it. Yesterday, a new regulation on digital banks in Turkey has been opened to public opinion, which means that digital banks are on the way in Turkey. What's your thoughts about digital banks or the neobanks or challenger banks in Turkey?
Yeah, that's a really exciting development. We're seeing a lot in the UK. There are about 24 challenger banks, if I remember right, in the UK alone. So there's obviously going to be some consolidation, but some of them are doing really well. I mean, Revolut, for example, had a valuation of 33 billion. That is quite significant. Some are struggling a little bit, especially when it goes, they typically start with one particular niche where they're super good at. For example, Revolut started with currency exchange, right? And others started in crypto or in other things. But then to actually do the whole banking is sometimes proving a difficult journey for the neobanks. So bets are still being taken, how the neobanks will evolve, but they certainly put pressure on traditional banking, right? Because there are some things that a lot of them do really well, and they're built from the ground up digital. And so that is a hard yardstick for existing banks to do. If I can just add one thing on that topic, an interesting development is that some of the neobanks are actually giving back their banking license now in Europe. and saying, I just want to be a fintech on top of an existing bank. That's actually a smarter play. Then you don't have to do all the KYC and all the and manage the accounts and all the annoying things. You can just put a value-added service layer on top of an existing bank.
Yeah.
And for example, there's one that targets medics and hospitals and that market segment, which initially wanted to become a neobank, but then said, we'll just put a smart layer on top of existing banks, which is a very smart approach.
So in terms of fintechs, what do you think about the Turkish fintechs? Are they strong enough to make that challenge, both in the region or globally?
To be honest, I haven't seen many Turkish fintechs in the rest of the world, right? But looking inside the fintech market in Turkey, it looks incredibly lively. There are a huge amount of them. They're well organized, thanks to you, Selim, and others. And as I said, there's an incredibly innovative mindset, and I think they're all raring to go.
Okay, we have already talked about the fintechs, the ecosystem in Turkey, open banking, and also digital banks and regulation. So let's talk about our relationship with you, with the strategic partnership. So what kind of projects can we offer to the ecosystem, to the banks, or for the fintechs as well?
Well, one idea was that now that open banking is really coming to Turkey, it's being it's coming into law. There are going to be a number of questions, I think, right? From banks, what do we watch out for? How do we do this? How do we position ourselves in these new ecosystems? And do we become a passive or an active player? And do we build our own marketplace? There are many, many questions here, and also some technical ones. How do we do the APIs, and how do we integrate ourselves in other industries? So there are a lot of really interesting questions. So what I've been seeing in other markets is there's a huge demand just to learn what worked and what didn't work in other parts of the world. So that is why I believe we thought a masterclass might be a useful thing, where people from a bank can lock themselves up for 2 days with us, with you and me, basically. And because you know the Turkish market incredibly well, I know a little bit about open banking, and we can do a nice combination of what would work well in Turkey, because each geography, of course, is different. The open banking in Africa, for example, looks very different to that in Europe, as we can imagine, right? So that is one thing, right? A masterclass just to help key people in a bank get their heads around what this means. And that typically involves people from all departments. Any bank that thinks this is an IT topic or a compliance topic clearly needs a bit more help, right? This affects product development, this affects sales, this affects marketing, this affects the legal department, this affects the data department, of course. So every single department in a bank is impacted and will be impacted by open banking and APIs and all this. So that's one thing, the masterclass for all the departments across a bank.
So do you think that those master classes or some case-based studies just for industry or for the regulators as well, or other parties?
Very good point. Absolutely. I mean, the regulators in the financial services industry might also be interested in seeing some of the use cases in other parts of the world. And so that's always been very interesting. So they can help also shape policy in future. And that's what I've done a lot with the European Commission and with the ECB and things in Europe and also in South America. You know, what policy goals should be driven. So that is clearly for them. And as we discussed before, also for other industries, right? This is relevant for retail and for telco and for health and for dating sites, right? So,
so how do you see the relationship between the regulators and the innovation?
That, I think, is something we will have to see how that pans out. In some countries, it's been heavily regulatory driven. In some other countries, it's been more market-driven. So where the balance is going to be, we will have to see, right? For example, America was, of course, incredibly market-driven all the time. You know, they don't like the government telling them what to do. But increasingly, privacy laws are appearing in America, in California, and increasingly elsewhere. And I don't know if you saw, about 2 weeks ago, Biden issued an executive order that he was unhappy with the competition between banks, the services, and he would like to introduce open banking. So even in market-driven America, we're going to get some regulatory-driven effects. And so something like that will happen in Turkey, I imagine. And you will know better than me how strong the regulator will enforce this. But usually it's a mix of regulatory and market-driven.
Okay, so you have many experience in many countries, in many legislations. So how is open banking affecting the customers in those countries?
I mean, I think open banking, or put another way, if we look back in 10, 20 years and see what caused the biggest change in banking and payments, I think we're going to look back and say that was open banking. It isn't instant, it isn't request to pay, it isn't any of the 17 other ones. Open banking is the most transformative thing that is happening. And so we're already seeing huge transformational changes in very specific segments. And this is a journey which will continue for many years yet as it goes through all industries. It's like when MP3 was invented, how that changed the music industry. Initially, Napster came along and you had file sharing things, and we're still trying to work out how to organize music on the internet. And this will also be the case. So this is going to be an exciting journey, and we already know a lot of things, but there are also a lot of things that we will see as time goes.
So I have seen that there are some disruptions with open banking. So what disruptions are you seeing due to open banking?
Well, at the basic level, it's just you get an overview over all your assets, right? The sort of PFM play. So a customer previously just had to log into each bank and look at his statements and then have a piece of paper and sort of see how much he's actually got net worth and how much he has over. And now, of course, you can access all the banks and automatically get an overview of your net worth. You can see that you have maybe a bit too much here and not enough here. So you can automate also some sweeping functions so that if you have so that at the end of the month, your money will be put on a savings account, or it will be added to some investment, which can be configured in a way that you like. So if you're particularly green leanings, you can automatically invest in green things. So that's the beginning, that you get a nice overview and you can reorganize your funds dynamically. And for those slightly at the lower end of income, they can avoid overdrafts because money, that they will get an alert early and money can be moved maybe from a savings account to a current account before an overdraft happens. So there's quite a lot happening in this PFM and AI area, which for some banks is quite transformational because they made a lot of money in overdrafts and they don't like their money being swept out of their current account and put into an investment banks somewhere else or moved to a neobank. So there are various strategies how one can deal with that and actually benefit from it. For example, just to stay at this very simple first level, a bank doesn't need to be a victim of open banking, where other people come in and harvest your data and move your money around. You can actually actively say, please show me all your other financial connections and I will make you a holistic offer. You don't need to have 5 bank accounts. I will give you one bundle, which includes a credit card and a loan and a mortgage and a current account, all from me. And you can cancel all the other accounts in other things. So just on this very basic level of PFM and accessing all your assets, one's already beginning to see some huge transformation. And then, of course, it happens in each product line. That's a whole topic in itself.
So with those disruptions, of course, there are some unusual or unexpected use cases. So I'm sure you have many. Could you please share them with us?
Well, one thing I already mentioned, the dating site as being an unexpected one, but there are also some unexpected ones, for example, in Germany, where people are super sensitive on privacy.
Yeah.
And all surveys have said, nobody's ever going to use open banking because, I'm not going to share my data with anybody. I'm not going to consent to any of this. It turns out that isn't true. As soon as you give somebody an incentive and say, by the way, I can save you 200 euros a year in insurance costs by having a look through your insurances and optimizing those, or I can give you a better return on your investments, etc., people are immediately ready to share their data. So that was a surprise. And there was actually a study done recently, an academic study, which was beautifully done across all the dimensions of this privacy and opening up. And that gave some super valuable insights, which confirmed that.
So since we are going to see some digital banks in Europe, as we have heard the regulation, so how are they doing, the neobanks or the challenger banks doing in Europe?
Some of them are doing quite well. I mentioned already Revolut, right? Who are doing. I've been a customer of Revolut since the beginning. I use it all the time. When I came to Turkey, for example, last time, I'm not going to change Turkish lira at a bank. I'm doing that on my app in Revolut, which gives me the best exchange rates. I can tap my Revolut app at any point of sale in Turkey. It's categorized immediately. I don't know how many currencies already in my Revolut app. And increasingly, they're providing all sorts of other great functions. So these people obviously have fully understood what digital banking is all about and providing a fantastic service. That isn't true for all of them, because they're discovering actually that banking is hard. And that's why, as I mentioned earlier, some of them are actually giving back their banking license and saying, no, we're going to be a fintech on top of existing banks. We're just going to focus on the value added customer layer, because that's where the money is. I don't want to do all this compliance stuff that the banks have to do. So that was a surprising development, maybe. And what's also been interesting is a number of very niche neobanks have appeared. I already mentioned the one for the doctors and hospitals and medicals, because those are typically wealthy people who don't have the time to occupy themselves with banking and stuff. And so if they get a great offer, that is wonderful. They will start banking there. And then this neobank can finance the new dental practice that they're opening up around the corner. So everybody wins.
So they seem very interesting for us. But I'm sure that you have heard the news in the UK that elderly people suffered from open banking. So what's your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes things are confounded there, whether it really is open banking or not. But yeah, you sure, when you introduce this, you have to take care of all stakeholder groups and not only think about the millennials. I mean, in the UK, I'm afraid we have a tradition of getting that wrong. We tried to abolish checks. And then all the elderly said, I've been using checks for the last 50 years. You cannot possibly do that, right? So you just have to understand each segment. But there are some specific fintechs who are particularly targeted for helping the elderly, the not so digital. Mm-hmm. There are also some who are particularly targeted towards those with the lower income. There's a huge movement at the moment, open banking for good, not just making money, but actually making the world a better place. And so as we see these developments in all areas, I don't think it's fair to say that open banking will harm the elderly, but some people who've not thought about this have put some things in the market that didn't work so well. But I'm confident that the net effect will be very positive. Remember when the smartphones came around, people were always saying that there should be a senior phone. Well, actually, Apple managed to capture all the seniors as well, just by putting nice big buttons, make it easy to use, because in fact, everybody wants that. Everybody wants ease of use, not just the seniors.
So many people think about only the technological side of fintech when we're talking about, but I had a model that I'm using all the time. Yes, technology is one of the pillars. Culture is the second pillar. Economy is the third pillar, and regulation is the fourth pillar. Without those four pillars, you can't create your house, let's call it this strategy, on top of them. So what do you think about it?
No, that sounds absolutely great, yeah, because that also shows why open banking and fintech is evolving slightly differently in each geography, because there are different cultures. For example, the Germans like cash and they like privacy, and the Africans have different technology. They use USSD and not smartphones. So technology, culture, regulation, absolutely, all those play into. So that's why we, I believe we're trying to develop a thing specifically for Turkey, where we take into what fits in with the Turkish regulation, with the Turkish culture, and with the Turkish mindsets, and what Turkish technology typically offers. Yeah.
So when we are talking about technology, we should also consider the cyber crimes. So I'm sure that we're going to see. I'm sure that you know some of the cases in most of the world. So let's talk about a little bit cybercrime when we're talking about open banking or some digital banks.
Yeah, I mean that's an important dimension, of course. There are basically two tensions in open banking. One is, I mean, you're trying to open up, right? That's the point of open banking, right? You're trying to connect to other industries and make the data useful everywhere else. So you're trying to open up. But privacy is trying to limit how much you use data. So there's a tension there. And the other one is, if you start making data accessible and putting APIs on top of banks, you're going to potentially give entry points to cyber criminals. So that's absolutely another tension. Totally agree. And of course, I'm sure you and all people watching this are well aware. If you look at the media, all the hackers are always some student in a hoodie, right, sitting in his parents' basement trying to hack something. That, of course, is not how cybercrime works. Cybercrime is now run by highly professional organizations with a CEO, with the research departments working out what the best technologies are to get in, with very clever business case, which models can they scale really well. They have a car park, they have a pension scheme. These are companies, corporates, highly organized corporates which do a lot of outsourcing and partnerships. So in order to defend against that, you also have to be super professional. And that is why this topic we talked about earlier, security, authentication, two factors, SCA, is absolutely crucial that one gets that right, both at a technology point and also in a usability way. So that is absolutely a key ingredient and something one must be very conscious of because of this cybercrime problem. Yeah.
So I think those all advancements took the attention of media, I think. So what is the media thinking about those customer models?
Well, I don't know what your perception is in Turkey, but what I've seen elsewhere is it's not such a hot topic, actually. You know, people are talking about fintech maybe, but open banking doesn't feature much. And for me, the explanation is it's like electricity. It happens in the background. Nobody really worries about electricity. A normal man in the street doesn't think about how the voltages get into his flat. But one knows since the introduction of electricity, suddenly you could have light around the clock. You could have heaters, you could have toasters, you could have televisions. So suddenly this technology has enabled all sorts of new applications and basically changed our lives. And for me, open banking is like electricity. It has enabled lots of new applications and new ways of doing things. But as a technology in itself, it's not so interesting for the man in the street. He's only interested in the television and the toaster and the light.
But from your point, I think that media has some roles if you want to make open banking work in your country. So to take our public attention. So what do you think they can do to take the public attention and make people use or know both sides. I mean, both the pitfalls and the advancements in open banking.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's super important. I always think the use cases are the big trigger there, right? Mm. If you show somebody, oh, I can get a much better insurance cover, I can get a loan online in the middle of the night without supplying lots of documents and printing things out. I can, you know, all the use cases are basically what drives it. It just shows how much it makes life easier, how much money you save. And that's the thing that interests the media, of course.
Okay. So we are waiting for the open banking and the, both for the industry, for fintechs, banks, and also the other industries. So, but I think I'm thinking of the future. What's going to be after open banking?
Mm.
The future.
Okay.
What is the future of open banking?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we're embarking on that in Europe as we speak, because it was seen how transformative open banking was and is by basically mandating APIs on top of banks. This is transforming that industry massively. So the regulator's saying, okay, let's do that for the other industries as well.
Yeah.
So this is now going to happen for telcos, for health, for government services, for everything. So all industries are being opened up. And if you look, for example, in Australia, they already started that way. They didn't start only with open banking. They also immediately went and said health and telco should be opened up at the beginning. And then, of course, you can do what I like to call the API mashup economy. It's not a great word, but if everybody has these APIs, then you can start mashing up the data from various industries together and develop new services. I mean, for example, Uber is an API mashup. It uses your location, it uses the driver's location, it uses a payment, and it uses a map. Those are 4 APIs which you just pull in together, mash them up, and you have Uber. I'm simplifying a little bit, right? But by mashing up these 4 industries and 4 APIs, one has been able to generate this hugely transformative service called Uber. And this is exactly the game that we're into now. We're not just doing open banking and doing financial services, we're mashing up data from all sorts of services. And just to give you a little surprising one there, a toaster has recently appeared where you can toast which will toast an image of the weather on your breakfast toast. So you can see whether it's going to be sunny or raining. And it does that by accessing the weather service API. It accesses your calendar API by knowing where you're going to be that day. And then it prints that on your toast.
Super exciting. Okay, so since it's an introduction of you to the ecosystem, to the Turkish ecosystem, let's keep it short. So in Turkish words, if you keep something short, that will be sweet. So, but as we're coming to the end of this webinar, I'm sure you have some advice to the Turkish ecosystem. I mean, the banks, also the fintechs, or to the regulator as well. So can I take those advices from you before we start our webinar?
Okay. If you ask me for a generic advice, I would say strap yourself in. This is going to be an exciting up and down journey, right? This is something where you can't just implement it and then you're done. This is something which is still evolving in each country. Each bank is discovering this path works well, this path doesn't. So that's why we said it might be a good idea to have a look at some of the experiences already in the market, so you can already exclude some of the things and focus on some of the things. But there's no silver bullet, as we say in England, right? There isn't this one recipe. As you know, that in digital, one has to be flexible and have various approaches. And some of them are clearly going to be winners. That already is very clear. Some of them are very clear that they're not going to work. And there are a number in between. So I think it's, if you approach this with an open mindset and say, okay, I'm going to take the low hanging fruit first and the sure winners, but then also be ready to experiment with some of the ones that might need a little more tuning, especially in that geography, then you're going to be a winner. And what I can also say is one of the surprising things for some people is the banks are going to be the winners of this development. Mm-hmm. One of the initial thoughts was that the fintechs would sandblast the banks away, you know, because one of them is going to be so innovative in customer interface, another one on authentication, another one on loans, another one on credit. They would all take all the cherry pick all the best bits out, and the poor banks would be left with a skeleton. That is absolutely not what is happening. Instead, fintechs are partnering with banks and banks are partnering with fintechs, and both are winning. Because the fintechs have the innovation, they have the new ideas, they have the digital, they have the culture, they have the mindset, but the banks have the customers, they have the connections to other banks, they have the accounts, they have the stability, the trust, the KYC. So if one brings in the assets from both sides, then both will be winners.
Which means that they will need some new strategies. I mean, the banks, the C-level, need to think about the new strategies like banking as a service or fintech as a service, or how are we going to make this strategic partnership with whom, in which terms. So I think we're going to talk more about those topics in the future with you, and also create some seminars or some strategic level trainings with the ecosystem. And we're going to share them with FinTech Istanbul, of course. So let's call it as stay tuned to FinTech Istanbul.
Wonderful.
Okay, Michael, I'm asking Ahmet if we have any questions, and the answer is no. But I'm sure we're going to take some questions from our emails and forward it to you as well. So
okay.
It was
just on that last topic, if I just say one sentence on that.
Please.
There are actually 4 very concrete positionings for banks, which we'd be very happy to discuss maybe in another webinar or in one of these masterclasses where banks can position themselves. Yes. And those have very clear consequences and very clear actions. So if we're interested in delving down in that, I think that's a very good place to start.
Sure, we will, yes. Okay, so it was great to meet you and introduce you to the ecosystem, Michael. So we are going to see you more with us, I'm sure, and with the ecosystem as well. So any few words from you?
No, it's a great pleasure talking to you. I think this is an area where nobody has all the answers. So if we work them out together, you, we, the banks, the fintechs, I'm sure we're going to have a great time, and we're really going to change the world. It's already happening in other places, and now it's Turkey, and really look forward to that.
Thank you. With your help, we're going to find the answers. I'm sure of that. So everyone, it was our introduction, Michael Salmony, to you. If you have any questions, you can forward them to us. And Michael, thank you again for your time. We're going to be again. So have a wonderful day. I think you're in Germany, and we have a great weather in Istanbul, and hope to see you again.
Thank you. Real pleasure.
Bye-bye. See you.
Bye-bye.